Hello, GCC Youth. Welcome back to another week of youth group. Hold on. I don't like doing this without my co-host. Addison, do you have any words to say? Anything to say? No? Look at that beautiful family. Anyway, welcome back to another week of youth group. This week we are starting a new series, and it is from our one and only Pastor Addison. It's going to be a good one, guys. He's going to be talking about the whole idea of confidence over certainty and just how we're in a season of life where we have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow and we don't know when quarantine and stuff like this is going to end. But we do know and we can trust the confidence that we have in Jesus and who He is. So we're super excited for that. He's about to preach. I'm just kind of here to entertain you. Unfortunately, I am quarantined in my house, so I can't go to the church and make announcements anymore. But what's better than, announcements from home with Addison on screen? You know what I mean? Doesn't get better. Anyway, hope you guys enjoy the sermon, and I'll see you in a little bit.
Hey GCC Youth, it's Pastor Addison here. Excited to spend some time with you guys tonight. It's been fun to spend time with you in the chat over the last couple weeks, and it's been fun to interact around the Andrew Atwell videos, those guys who are in the small group with me. It's been fun to connect with you guys. We are excited to kind of come back together here tonight, and what we're talking about is we're going to go back to kind of the way that, as close as we can to the way that we did things before this whole thing started. The video series was fun, and I feel like I learned a lot. I hope you feel like you learned a lot. But what we wanted to do is, hey, let's go ahead and start producing youth group the way that we used to do it before, COVID-19 world. So we asked ourselves, what should we talk about, right? We looked, Christina and I sat down, we looked at a couple options, we looked at a couple lessons, and ultimately what we decided was that we would do a study on 1 Peter. Now, a lot of times we use curriculum. This is all kind of just going to come straight from me studying and preaching it to you guys and talking about it with you guys. We are going to provide some resources, but basically it's just going to be kind of us having a conversation about what this stuff means. And you might say, well, why 1 Peter? Well, 1 Peter, as you're going to learn tonight, was written to people who were suffering. And they were written to people who were going through a difficult time, who were under persecution. Now, obviously this isn't persecution, right? But what it is it is suffering in a lot of real ways, right? Those of you guys who are seniors, you've lost your prom and likely an in-person graduation. Those of you guys who are athletes, you've lost a full season of a sport that you love playing. Those of you guys who have hobbies or in clubs that you've been looking forward to all year, you just found out last week that, hey, those aren't happening anymore. Those of you guys who maybe were working towards an AP test or something like that, yeah, those are still happening, but you're not going to get the same instruction leading into them. Your whole world has kind of been turned upside down, and that can feel scary, that can feel overwhelming, that can feel, upsetting. The truth is that it's very easy for you guys to feel forgotten in the midst of all this. And it's not because you're not cared about. It's not because people don't see you. It's not because people don't know that you're going through a rough time. It's just because there's so much going on that it's really easy for the things that you're going through to maybe feel small to somebody from the outside. Here's what's true, though. Your parents see you. Your parents know that this is difficult for you. Your parents care about you. And all of those things are true about us too. We, as your youth leaders and your youth pastors, and even the pastors of this church, we see what you guys are going through. We love you. We care about you. You're not alone in this. And I would encourage you to not fall into what I like to call ranking our suffering. What we do sometimes when we're going through a difficult time is we try to find an idea of, oh, well, so-and-so has it worse, so it's really okay. That's not the type of thinking you should let yourself enter into. Just because somebody has a more difficult time than you, it doesn't make your difficult time not difficult, right? So really, I want you to just yeah, this is tough, guys. And you don't have to pretend that it's not tough. You don't have to act like It doesn't matter to you. You don't have to just like dismiss how you feel about it. And over the next couple weeks, I want to have a really real conversation about what matters in our lives, what doesn't matter in our lives, what this means for us, because there's a lot of lessons to be learned as we all go through this together. And hopefully I can guide you into some of those lessons as your pastor. I care about you guys. I love you guys. That is so true for every single one of your small group leaders. And most importantly, the adults in your lives who you might not feel like care about your thing, they care about you. They're finding ways to express it. They're finding ways to kind of figure it out. But everybody's going through something that none of us really expected. And so what we're going to do is we're going to study the book of 1 Peter, because it was written to people who were going through a difficult time, an uncertain time, a scary time. And we're going to try to find some wisdom in there for how we might want to deal with this situation. So what I have is there's a resource from the Bible Project. The Bible Project is this great resource, and it's all these informational videos about Scripture, and they're done in this really artistic way that lets you really engage with them. We're going to go to their resource real quick, and then we're going to come back, and we're just going to unpack 1 Peter a little bit. But let's go to that resource right now, and then we'll come back afterwards, and we'll talk about it for a little. Here we go.
The first letter of Peter. His name was Shimon, or Simon, when he first became a follower of Jesus, and he was part of the inner circle of the 12 disciples. When he made his confession that Jesus was the Messiah, Jesus changed his name to Kephas, which is Aramaic for rock, which was later translated into Greek as Petros or Peter. Jesus promised that he would become a leader among the apostles to guide the Messianic community in Jerusalem through its earliest years, and that's what happened. Remember the early chapters of the book of Acts. Eventually, Peter was called to carry the good news of Jesus beyond the borders of Israel, however, and this letter was written decades into that mission in the wider Roman world. We discover at the conclusion of this letter that Peter is in Rome, which he calls Babylon, and we learned that while Peter commissioned the letter, it was actually composed by a man named Silvanus, who was a co-worker of Peter. This was a circular letter sent to multiple church communities in the Roman province of Asia Minor, which is in modern-day Turkey. And Peter learned that these mostly non-Jewish Christians were persecuted. They were facing hostility and harassment from their Greek and Roman neighbors. And so Peter wrote to encourage them in the midst of their suffering. And this helps explain the letter's design and its main themes. It opens with a greeting, and then it moves into a poetic song of praise to God, which introduces the key themes that are explored in the main body of the letter, where he first affirms the new family identity of these persecuted Christians, which will help them see their suffering as a way to bear witness to Jesus. And this has a way of focusing their future hopes on the return of Jesus. Let's dive in. You'll just see how all the pieces work together. So Peter opens by greeting these churches as the chosen people of God who are exiled around the world. Now, Peter makes clear throughout the letter that these Christians he's writing to are Gentiles, but here he describes them with phrases from the Old Testament that describe how God chose the people of Israel, the family of Abraham, who was himself an exile and wanderer. This is a key strategy that Peter repeats through the whole letter. He wants these suffering non-Jewish Christians to see that through Jesus, they now belong to the family of Abraham. And so they're wandering exiles just like him, misunderstood, they're mistreated, and they're looking for their true home in the Promised Land. Peter continues this idea in the opening song. He praises God for causing people to be born again into a living hope through Jesus' resurrection and the power of the Spirit. God's inviting all people into a new family centered around Jesus, a family that has a new identity as God's beloved children and who have a new hope of a world reborn by God's love when Jesus returns as King. And for people who have this hope, suffering and persecution is actually a strange gift because it burns away false hopes and distractions like a purifying fire, and it reminds us of our true home and hope. And so paradoxically, life's hardships actually deepen our faith. They make it more genuine.
All right, so that video was quite a lot. There was a lot in there. There was a lot to kind of catch, and if you didn't, that's okay. You could always go back later and watch it. Or we put the link to the whole video in the description. So if you want to go ahead and read all 4 chapters of 1 Peter, you could watch that whole video and you could do it. In fact, I'd encourage it if it's something you want to try out. Maybe you've never read the Bible before. Read the whole book, get a feel for kind of everything he's saying. Watch the video. If you're wondering what translation to use, I would probably use NLT. It's probably a really easy translation for you guys to use and understand. It's one of the easiest ones to read. But as I thought about kind of how to think about what's happening here in First Peter, I actually thought about something that happened in November of 2015. Now, it's November of 2015. Ellie was born on December 31st, 2014, and she's 5 now. So this is a long time ago, right? I think that's how it works, right? So born December 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yes, she's 5. Okay, so it is November 2015. It's November 2015. And Alyssa and Ellie went on a vacation to Disney World. Now, if you don't know me, you don't know this, but Disney World is one of my favorite places on earth. Like, it's just where we go. It's where we vacation. We love it there. And it's November of 2015. Ellie's just about a year old, and we are taking a vacation to Disney World, and we were so excited about it. It was going to be the first time we were going to stay on Disney property. It was just going to be great all around, right? And so we get there, and the first day is amazing. I mean, weather is perfect. They were filming the Christmas in the Parks thing that they film in early November. You've probably seen it on Christmas on ABC. They do like performances and stuff. They're filming it. So we got to see like a free concert, and the day is just going perfectly. And we're cruising right along. And I remember getting to the end of that day and saying to myself, man, if every day of this trip is going to be like this is going to be the best vacation of all time. And so we go to bed, we wake up the next day, and we get on a ride called Expedition Everest, and we get off, and Alyssa says, man, that really got to me. I kind of have a headache. And, it was like, okay, well, it's Disney, let's keep going. And we kept rolling, and eventually, though, Alyssa said, you know what, I'm not feeling too well. We have a lot of vacation left. Let's go back to the room and let's lay down and let's take a little bit of a break for the rest of the day. I'm probably tired from flying, all that type of stuff. And so we go back to the room. Alyssa lays down. I sit there with Ellie. I think Ellie and I walked around or something, well, Ellie wasn't walking. But, I might have taken the stroller out or something like that. And basically what ended up happening was Alyssa, for the first time in her life, developed a migraine. And over the course of that week was basically in bed. We were in the hospital for a whole day at one point. And the point is that it went from being what we thought was going to be the best vacation ever to something that we look back on and say, man, that was kind of the worst vacation ever, right? And we laugh about it and we say, November 2015, like, let's not have another one of those. And it's something that's kind of become a joke among us now. But in the moment, I remember just being really sad because, not only was my wife sick, but we had this vacation that we had planned, that we had worked so hard on, and here it was just not going to happen the way that we thought it was going to happen. But that's not even my favorite memory from that trip. My favorite memory from that trip actually happened on the Thursday of that week. So on the Thursday of that week, we had a reservation at this restaurant called Ohana. And Ohana is like this, it's like a steakhouse type thing where they come around with the big skewers of meat, right? And we're there and we were getting ready to go. And Alyssa was like, I'm really not feeling up to it. I'm just going to go back to the room. I'm going to lay down. And so I said, well, we can't get out of the reservation at this point, and whatever. And so I take Ellie and I go to the reservation by myself. Now, you have to picture this. I am at the time a 25-year-old man. And I am sitting at a table for 3 with me and my 1-year-old. And no one else is with us at the table. And, Ellie's not ordering. So they're bringing up these like family-sized platters that I am just eating from myself. And it was genuinely one of the most depressing 30 minutes of my life because I'm just alone at this restaurant surrounded by people that are with their families. And my phone had died from the day. So my phone was across the room charging because I had my charger with me. I said, hey, can you charge this? I need to be able to get a hold of my wife. I got not even through the appetizer course, and I just said to the server, listen, this is weird. Is there any way we could get out of the reservation? Here's what's going on with my wife. And they were cool about it. They were like, yeah, whatever, just go ahead. So I grab Ellie, I get my phone, and I start making my way back to our room. And I have Ellie, and I'm checking my phone, and this is the best memory from the trip. On my phone was a voicemail from Pastor Jim. And what had happened was I had interviewed here at Grace Community back in the beginning of November, and I had left that interview saying, man, that was the best interview ever. I really want to work at that church. And on my phone was a voicemail from Jim offering me this job. And, it's fascinating because right in the middle of probably what could have been one of the worst weeks of my life, I got to see the rest of my life fall into place, right? I got to see at least, so far it's been 5 years, but probably many more years. And this tremendous blessing came in the midst of something that I really didn't enjoy, something that I didn't like. And, when I think about this time that we're all going through, and I know that was a really long story, I usually don't spend 5 minutes on a story. But when I think about this time that we're all going through, I think that kind of could be how we look at it. And I wanted to focus in on what Peter says in that opening song of praise to God. And I want to kind of take a minute to apply it to your lives. So let's read together in 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 3 through 12. 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 3 through 12. And we'll put it on the screen for you. Here it is. Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. In his great mercy, he has given us new birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. He's writing to people who he knows are persecuted, and this is one of the first things he says to them. And into an inheritance that can never perish, spoil, or fade. This inheritance is kept in heaven for you, who through faith are shielded by God's power until the coming of the salvation that is ready to be revealed in the last time. Look at how that sentence is structured. This inheritance is kept for heaven for you, and what I'm about to say is about you. You are shielded through faith by God's power until the coming of the salvation that is ready to be revealed in the last time. Verse 6. In all this, you greatly rejoice. So what he's saying is everything I just said is cause enough for rejoicing regardless of the circumstance. Again, remember, he's writing to people who are persecuted. Let's keep reading. In all this, you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while you have had to suffer grief in all kinds of trials. These have come. So he first of all focuses on this idea of here's everything you have to be thankful for. You are saved. You are headed to heaven. You have an inheritance in heaven that is better than anything you can imagine. And also, I'm not unaware of your trials. These have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold. So gold is currency, right? Gold is valuable. Gold is values. But he's saying your faith is more important than that because of what it ultimately represents, which is your inheritance in heaven, of greater worth than gold. And then this is about gold. Gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. Now, in this context, I could talk about things like how to read the Bible correctly, right? So that sentence could be confusing. So here's, if we take out the middle part that's kind of in those brackets, we could say, these have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. And then he takes this little minute in the middle to say, your faith is of greater worth than gold. Gold that perishes even though it's refined by fire. So he's saying your faith is being refined by fire, and just like gold that has great worth, but your faith is worth more than gold. Does that make sense? So what he's saying is that these trials in your life are a lot like a purifying fire that refines gold. That's what he's trying to get across. Like, he's saying what makes gold gold is the fact that it's purified by fire. What makes your faith valuable, what makes your faith result in more praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed, is the fire that it goes through in the meantime. Though, and then verse 8, though you have not seen him, you love him. And even though you do not see him now, you believe in him and are filled with inexpressible and glorious joy. For you are receiving the end result of your faith, the salvation of your souls. So Peter wrote First Peter, who was given away right in the title. What Peter's trying to say here is he's saying, look, I know there's a lot going on. I know there's a lot of stuff that's upsetting. I know there's a lot of stuff that feels so big. But you have your faith. And there are things that cannot touch your faith. In fact, nothing that happens here can touch the end result of your faith. And what Peter is saying is he's saying we have confidence even when we don't have clarity. He's saying we have confidence of the results of our faith, even though we don't have clarity in what's going to happen next. We have confidence even when we feel uncertain. We have confidence even when there is no certainty of what's going to happen next, of how we're going to get through the next thing, of what it looks like for me to not have a prom or a baseball season or a tennis season or a graduation, right? What he's saying is your faith represents a greater confidence than any of these things because it is more valuable than gold. And actually, in the midst of these things, your faith grows stronger. And that's what he's trying to get across. And then in verses 10 through 12, he gets into kind of this idea of how valuable this faith is. We'll read through it real quick. We're not going to dig into it the same way we did the earlier verses, but 10 to 12, just to finish kind of this section. Concerning this salvation, the prophets who spoke of the grace that has come to you, the salvation, searched intently and with greatest care, trying to find out the time and circumstances to which the Spirit of Christ in them was pointing when he predicted the sufferings of the Messiah and the glory that would follow. So what Peter is saying is the prophets who wrote the Old Testament really tried to figure out when this thing was going to happen. And then it says this, it was revealed to them that they were not serving themselves but you when they spoke the things that have now been told you by those who have preached the gospel to you by the Holy Spirit sent from heaven. So what he's saying is this faith, this glorious faith, is what the Old Testament was pointing to. He's talking to people who are familiar with the Bible was the Old Testament at that time. Or I'm sorry, the Old Testament was the Bible at that time. And he's saying those guys were talking about what we're talking about now. And they looked forward to it. And they looked forward to the glory of it. And he's saying that again. Remember who he's talking to. He's talking to people who are under persecution, under difficulty, under challenges. And it says that he's talking, you've heard what they were looking forward to. And then it says, even angels long to look into these things. In other words, he's talking kind of across this whole thing. He's talking about how important your faith is, how important my faith is, how valuable your faith and my faith is, because it can't be touched by human circumstances, because it has this timeless quality to it that it can't be affected by anything. In fact, it's the most important thing about you, and it's the most important thing about me is what I do with this faith. So what does this mean for us in the midst of 2020 COVID-19? First of all, I think it means that we can grieve, but we have to grieve with proper perspective. This is tough. Guys, I'm not pretending it isn't tough. It's very, very difficult what we're all going through together. But it will pass. It will. It will be over. There will be a 2021. There will be a fall of 2020. At some point, things will return to normal. We will get through this. And your faith is not touched by it. So, yes, we can grieve, but we must grieve with proper perspective. Look, those of you guys who, and I want to talk specifically to seniors for just a minute, you guys have lost some stuff that's really important and that really matters. I mean, graduation, prom, that stuff is so fun. And you know, it's something that people look back on fondly, and I get that losing that is so difficult, and I'm not downplaying your grief, I'm not downplaying your loss, and I don't think you should either. I don't think you should fall into the trap of saying, oh, well, it's just graduation, people are losing their jobs, that's ultimately more important. Look, your suffering is your suffering, and you don't have to compare it against anybody else's. You don't have to lay it out and try to earn the right to feel bad. If something makes you sad, it makes you sad, and you should be honest about that, and you should talk to somebody who cares about you. But you should make your best effort to keep it in proper perspective, that it can't touch the things that ultimately matter to you. You know, it's, for the most part, it probably, it's not something that can touch your family dynamics. It's not something that can touch your, the kind of broader picture of your future, right? But, most importantly, like Peter would say to us, he would say, like, don't you see how valuable your faith is? You still have your faith, and you still have your inheritance in heaven, and I don't want you to lose sight of how valuable those things are. So that's number one, is grieve, but grieve with perspective. Number two is the idea that, do I actually value my faith in this way? Right? Like, this is kind of an interesting one, because I don't want to make you feel bad, even though it's kind of my job as your youth pastor. But when you lose these things, when you lose the baseball season or the tennis season or the graduation or the prom or these things, really take a minute to audit how that makes you feel, how you're processing that. Because, and I can just tell you, like, what God's done in my heart is God has asked me, Addison, how much do you really need those things that you had become so dependent on, right? Like, I mean, I'll just use a simple one. I used to go out to eat for lunch, like, a decent amount of times. Like, you know what I mean? And it was something where I just liked it. I thought it relaxed me. I thought it, but, I've been doing it less in COVID-19 world for kind of obvious reasons and for just, like, practical reasons, right? And I think God uses stuff like that to say, hey, how could you be better using that money that's going into fast food or taking care of your body, right? And I think what God uses loss to do sometimes is to reveal what we would call the idols of our heart. You know what I mean? Those things that we've built up to a place of such prominence in our lives that losing them feels like losing everything. And I'll just tell you, I'm not trying to judge you. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. When you give something that much power in your life, you are setting yourself up for potential disappointment. And we'll just leave it there. If you give something that much value in your life, you're setting yourself up for potential disappointment. And I don't want that for you. And God doesn't want that for you. And that's why Peter says, hey, focus on your faith. Focus on your faith because that's not something that will lead you to disappointment. And then kind of the final thought of it is how can we help others find this hope in the midst of this difficult time? How can you show others how your faith has affected you? How can you give others this faith? Guys, this is a time where people are going to be incredibly receptive to the things of God and the things of church. So invite them to come do youth group with us. Invite them to come to our Sunday morning stuff. Invite them to kind of maybe read through the Bible with you, right? And lean into this idea of, yeah, things are really uncertain right now, but we're going to make it through. Let's pray together. Jesus, we thank you that you love us, that you see us, and that you know us. And we pray, Lord Jesus, that you would help us to keep our faith at the very center of our lives, and that we would apply these concepts to how we live and how we act. And we ask that you would help us to put our faith at the center and let everything else fade into the background. And we ask all this in your name. Amen.
Oh, man. He's back, guys, and he's better than ever. That was so good. So good. First Peter is such a good book, and man, I hope you guys are excited about this series, because It's gonna be so good. Okay, now you guys can go into your Zoom rooms. Zoom room. Make sure to click the link that's correct. So there's a girls link and a guys link. We do have passwords this week, and we had them last week, but we have them again this week just for safety reasons. So if you don't know what the password is, go to the email that you should have received earlier today, and it'll have the password, and then you can log in. Someone might let you in without you using the password, but we're just trying to keep it a little bit so we have control over who's joining. So yeah, enjoy time with your small groups, and yeah, guys, go to your small groups, because honestly, I really want to give away a puppy, so we might do it. We might do it. We might just do it. It might happen, but probably not. It'll probably just be a gift card. But you know what? Free gift card, let's go. All about it. All right, go in your Zoom rooms. Bye.